Hi everyone, Kim here from Stand With Nature. It is a nice, crisp, cool morning, and I am out here in our herb bed, and I am going to be harvesting all of these herbs today. I had cut these back a month and a half ago, and they had already regrown pretty much again. So I want to harvest them and dry them so we can use them for the winter. When you make all those delicious stews and soups and casseroles for the holidays, we're going to harvest them so that we can put them to use in the kitchen. It's very easy to do, and I'm going to walk you through how to do it. So we've got sage, parsley back there, oregano, 2 chives. This is thyme, tarragon, and rosemary. So we're going to go through one by one. All you're going to need is some twine and scissors for trimming the herbs. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bunch each type up one at a time and put it into my handy dandy wagon. So that is what I'm going to start doing, and I'll walk you through each one. So when I'm tying my bunches of herbs for drying, what I typically do is I will go down about 3 inches or so from the top, because if you tie directly at the top, it doesn't really have the string itself doesn't have that much to cling onto, and as it dries it'll start to fall down and drop everything before it's completed its drying process. So by tying down further where the leaves are located, it kind of has a lot more to grab onto, and you just want to tie it really tight with 2 square knots. And then what I do is I'll tie it right in the middle so I have 2 equal lengths of rope so that I can tie it on where I have it hanging. It works out really well that way, and it lessens the chance of it dropping while it's drying. And usually it'll stay hung up until it's completely dried with no problem. It won't fall, which comes in handy. And just a pro tip for those of you that have raised beds and you're having to kneel on the ground, if you don't yet have one of these, you should totally go grab one. It's a foldable bench for gardening. And the cool thing about these is you can flip it that direction to kneel on it for low stuff. Or if I was working on a higher bed, you can flip it that way to sit. So that would be perfect if I'm working over there in those higher beds. And it comes with cushion on both sides. Really saves the knees. And the other thing I love also using out in the garden is my wagon. This one, I don't really put dirt or anything in because it's fabric, but this is great for harvesting, for the herbs, for vegetables, for melons. Just makes it a lot easier to carry everything and not have to go back and forth. So this is my setup as I'm working my way around the bed. So the first herb I'm going to grab here is tarragon, and this one kind of branches out like a spider. If you can see here, that's the center part, and it kind of comes out around that part. So we don't want to cut that part, we want to leave that. We're just going to cut the ends. So all these parts here is what I'm going to be trimming and tying up. So I've just gone through and trimmed off all the tarragon. I have this left. This is what will start to regrow next season. And I'm going to be mulching this whole bed so it'll be nice and cozy during the winter. Now I'm going to tie this up and move on to the next herb. But look at all that beautiful tarragon that we have for cooking. Fantastic. All right, so just finished getting the thyme cut back. As you can see, I left all the wooded part there so that that can grow next year in the spring. There's the tarragon and the rosemary. And again, left all of the wooded part and just cut off the top sprigs that were high enough. Now I'm going to move on to the chives. Chives are going to be easy. I'm just going to go down to the base and chop it and tie them off. And then I'll move over to oregano. And now we've arrived at the oregano. The oregano is really easy to trim back. All you're going to do is grab it in sections. So you just grab a chunk with your hand like that. And because it's so bushy, oftentimes I'll tie it into 3 or 4 bunches because there's so much of it. It's easier to tie and hang up for drying. So with this oregano we just finished up, we ended up getting 3 really big bunches of it, which is great. And that's what we're going to leave and mulch for next season's growth. But Got 3 really big, generous bundles of it, so that is awesome. That'll dry out great for cooking. Next thing we're going to go with is this purple sage. It's got really beautiful coloration. We're going to go ahead and trim this back. And for sage, what you're going to do is just go in here and just very similarly to the rosemary, trim off the sprigs that are coming off. And this one I'm definitely going to have to bunch, probably about 4 different bunches because there's so much of it. But it'll be great because we'll have a lot for cooking. The herb bed is coming along beautifully. We have everything harvested. All we have left is the parsley and the sage. So we're going to move over to those and get those ready. So parsley is extremely easy to harvest. There's not a whole lot of offshoots. It just comes from one main shoot, which makes it super easy. So what you do is kind of bunch it up like a ponytail. You're just going to gently wrap it around so that you can get the base, hold the base and cut it, and then there you go. Now this base is gigantic, so I might want to make 2 bunches out of each one and tie them up that way. All right, we just ended up bunching the second and final set of parsley. So now we're going to move on to the last one, which is the gigantic sage. And same as the purple sage that we did right there, we're just going to go through and cut off these top growths here and leave the rest of the stem and clean off the dead leaves so that it can get some good growth next spring. Just finished loading the last herbs that we cut, which was the really big sage bush. We ended up getting 2 bunches of that. So this is a pretty good second harvest of the herbs for the fall. And now I'm going to get this bed prepped for the winter. I'm going to go get some compost from our backyard, and we're going to put a layer of compost on top. And then I'm going to bring over my straw and put that on the very top. And it'll be nice and ready for when the frost comes. Have a good time to relax from its hard work and come back in the spring. So I've got all the herbs in the house and they're all on the kitchen island. I had bunched them up outside, so all that is finished. Now I'm just going to give them a quick rinse over in the sink to get any dirt off that we have on the herbs still. And then I'm going to put them out on my back deck on a table to dry out, and then I'll hang them up tonight. So I just finished rinsing all of the bunches of herbs, and they're out on my back table drying so that we can hang them up in our laundry room on our rack shelf. So I'm just going to let them dry all day so they get all the water out of them, and then we'll hang them up. And I'll show you when I'm doing that. So I'm about 5 days out from finishing the harvesting of the herbs, and I totally forgot to show you how I hung them up and where I hung them up. So this is our laundry room. We're in the middle of adding some storage cabinets and stuff. So right now it looks a little janky with all the cords, but this is where I have hung all the herbs to dry. They're on this rack shelf here, just hanging up, coming along really well. There's the sage and the parsley. It's all starting to dry out really nicely. And I'll just leave it all here until it's nice and dry, and then I'll harvest and bottle everything. So I'm back here in our compost pile. I have 2 pots that I'm gonna fill up with compost. As you can see, we got a lot of fresh stuff. I just put on top my paper shreddings for my office. So I'm gonna dig down here where it's fresh and fill these up for the herb garden. All right, just got our 2 buckets of compost here. Fresh compost. This has been breaking down all season. Nice and fluffy and ready to go. So I'm gonna spread it all over the bed and then put the straw down. All right, just laid down a nice layer of compost, and we're gonna top it off with straw. All right, the bed is all prepped for winter. We've got everything all covered with compost and hay, and I cut off all of the herbs to harvest, and it is ready for next season. So all I'm essentially going to do is sit back and let it rest. If we have a lot more hot weather before the frost and the cold, I might harvest a second round if it pops up above the hay, or the straw I should say. But if it doesn't, I'm just going to leave it be. Might water it a couple times if it gets really, really hot and dry before the cold comes, but it's nice knowing it is all ready to go. And next season we'll have some beautiful new fresh herbs growing right where these were. All right, if you had a wonderful time watching this and enjoyed learning how to harvest and prep your flower bed, or your herb bed, I should say, go ahead and give us a follow at Team Stand With Nature. And we would love any ideas on videos that you want to see in the future, so comment below and let us know if you've prepped your herb bed yet. All right, have a good one and take care. Till next time, bye.